So we were excited about that. The MRE company, they didn't quite make it through the economic downturn. So we got involved. David and I got really heavily involved. We put some money into there's money kicked off. We got some state money, and now we started building another prototype. We got one in. Ted built it with the Italians. We get involved and start testing. All right, let's run. Cargill, you know, people like that. Big companies would have an interest in that. There's poultry would have an interest because of salmonella. So we got E. coli, salmonella, lots of things that are out. And we started running testing, and we're not getting the results we want. Surprise, huh? Yeah, we're kind of surprised. So we're committed, and now we've got a technology that's going, okay, we're not getting the results we want. We ran some bread through this, and we ran it through on a conveyor belt through a machine. So our machine is about as long as from here to jet. 7 foot tall, about 6 feet wide. Very large. And so we run it through a conveyor, we show it, and we look at it, and we set it aside. We did a demonstration for the state. Set it aside. It didn't get thrown away. We go back 45 minutes later for another demonstration, and there's the bread. And the interesting thing was you got a loaf on this side that looks brand new, and you got one next to it that's got mold on it. And you're trying to, well, something is a little unusual. So we found we weren't quite as homogeneous inside of our chamber with our radio frequency waves as we had thought, because that's what we treated with. We've got software processes and pulses that we use to treat product being food, sandwiches, whatever you might have. Dog food, we've done dog food, you can imagine that. That was an interesting. And so I hire another engineer, and he and I start digging into it, finding out, okay, we've got a problem. And then we start to find a way to fix the problem. We come up with a complete different way of doing the technology. So we filed our own patent. And we have now since amended our contract with Texas Tech so that all of it's kind of put together. So we still have Tech as a partner with us, and we're moving forward. So now we've got that. We've been contacted by a pet food company that has an FDA recall. And so we've been doing some testing on dog treats. I mean, how do you go, I don't know how you quite go from testing and killing E. coli on food and you come up with dog food. I was reading an article about it, and I asked one of my scientists, and I said, can you just listen to me and tell me if I'm crazy? And I said, I think we could treat pet food. Am I crazy? Because it sounds crazy to me. And she goes, oh God, no. Pet food is everywhere. Salmonella is everywhere in pet food. It is a huge problem. And she said when she was at the University of Nebraska, they did some studies and they found it's ubiquitous. It is everywhere. It's hard to keep out of the plant. It's hard to keep out of dog food. And now we've got the FDA with some new powers. So recall is a big issue. She was talking to a company in Texas that does pet foods and pet treats, high-end, and they were very interested. So we've already met with them, and we're doing some testing now. I've been in the lab doing a lot of lab testing I never thought I'd do. So I've been going back and redoing engineering that I used to never do. Learning a lot about microbiology and how to kill things. We've got some things that we're looking for that popped up this past week, where we're going to look at whether or not we can treat seeds, cotton seeds, food seeds, plant seeds, and mutate the DNA. So that's one of the next projects that we're working on, because if we can do that, now you get into a thing called mutagenics, where and that's what they do now if you come up with hybrid seeds. You may know how that process works. I don't know much, I'm learning about it, but basically they use carcinogenic chemicals to treat them, to force a mutation of the DNA. They plant them and they start to look for traits. It takes a long series of time. But to do that, you've got a registered greenhouse, and you suit up, because you don't want people touching the carcinogenic chemicals. So if we could do that with a non-lethal type machine, I think we have a product. So we're looking at that. That one came up just this past week. But that also reminds me of the story, talking about some guys I worked with in Tucson. They had they asked me to sit on their board. And so I go to a board meeting, and Michael's there. And Michael's a great guy. Really smart, a PhD, I think in neuropsychology. I can't remember exactly. Very smart guy. And we were talking about all the things, and there's all kinds of things that this device and process that he has put in place can do. At one point, I kind of looked and I said, all right, well, it's not about what it can do, it's about what is it going to do. We kind of got to focus. And so I made a suggestion at the board meeting that any board member that made up another thing that this product could do has to pay a $150 fine. And he looked at me and he goes, you're crazy. I said, I know that. I said, but I want you to focus on what are the 4 things that you want to do with this product, not the 50 that it can do. You can't do 50 things at once. You can do 4. What 4 are those? What are the top 4? Where are you going to go? Where's your low-hanging fruit? What are the easiest things to get to? Okay, sometimes it's not the biggest market. Sometimes the biggest market may be attractive because it's huge. Now you're talking 100 billion market or 100 million market. But you may find it's much easier to attack this market because nobody else is doing anything there. So we worked on that. And it lasted about 30 minutes. And then, well, we could do this. Michael, 4 things. What are they? So it's kind of hard sometimes to focus. And you get excited about that. Inventors get real excited. Anybody invented anything? Got a patent application? Okay. Well, what you find is that it's not uncommon to have an inventor that is incredibly emotionally attached to the invention. I mean, the kind that when you open up and they go, you have pictures of kids? And you go, yes. And he opens it up, and it's a picture of his invention. So where are your kids? I don't know. I guess they're at home. But did you see this feature down here? It's real. I'm not kidding you. It's very common. And so sometimes if you're working with them, the great news is that they need help. And so I talk to engineers, and what's really nice, and I like to bring this up because I am an engineer, is that the Rawls College of Business at Texas Tech is named after an engineer. So when I talk to business students, I always tell them that. Someone go, really? I said, yeah, but it only takes $25 million. You know, those letters on there are expensive. And I say, so if an engineer can learn business, learn financial statements, learn how markets work, learn how to raise money, then you as non-technical business students, economic students, should be able to figure out the technical nature of any product or service and help out that person. You don't have to be an engineer, but you can certainly understand it. Okay? And so if you can put that time in, here's the nice thing. Most inventions aren't really done at the business school. Okay? They're going to be done by more of the technical things. Not always. But just as a whole, you would probably say the College of Engineering at a major university would probably have a little bit more technical inventions than arts and sciences, perhaps, or others, or home economics. Okay? But the nice thing about it, you can learn the technology. That's what I tell my business school. Those inventors need help. They need somebody that knows how to write a business plan. They need someone who understands cash flow, and that when money runs out, businesses are dead. And the best time to find out you're going to run out of money is well in advance, so you have time to correct it or do something about it. And my adage is I like to panic early and avoid the rush. Okay? I like to start panicking 6 months before I have cash flow issues. So I know what I can do, and I've got multiple plans to try to fix that before it goes sour. Okay? It's not fun to walk in and go, you know, look here, we don't have any money. And today's payday. Not anymore. Not anymore. And so it's tough. Raising money is tough. I've done it. When we were in CardiArt, we had money ready to go, and we had a lot of doctors set up and ready to roll with us and put money in. We had commitments. We just hadn't collected on them. We were set to close on a number that almost fully fund us. Not quite, but almost, in the market tank. And as we start to collect, everybody would kind of describe their situation. And one doctor put it probably the best way. He goes, I still want to, I'm just not ready now. He said, my 401k has turned into a 201k. He said, until it gets back to the 401, I don't think I'm going to be putting money anywhere. And so we ran into a lot of that. So that created an issue. Then trying to raise money in bad economic times is tough. It's tough. Money is always kind of an issue. That's the lifeblood. You got to have a couple things. You know, a good idea is always nice. It doesn't have to be a great idea. It doesn't have to be unique to start a company. It's got three things. There's kind of three elements there. One, you got to have, it's like a stool, three-legged stool. You got three good legs. That stool is pretty stable. So you got an idea. You got the business opportunity. Yeah, you got to have that. Okay, you got a team behind you that knows how to make things happen. Maybe they've done it before. Hopefully they have. That's the best predictor of success, is that you've done it before. Okay, doesn't mean you will, but it's one of the best predictors. You know how to get through things. You know how to drive it, and you're committed. Okay. Then the third is, do you have the resources? The resources are usually the most important. Is going to be the cash, the capital. Do you have enough money to get there, or can you get to the next stage where you can raise the additional capital? That's a big. You got all three of those, you got a good shot. You got a stable foundation to put your business on. You only have two of them, it gets wobbly. You only have one, it's like a milk stool. It's not easy. Okay, so you want all three. You got them. One of the things that's out there is the team. And Jeff and I were talking about this, and he brought the point up, and I totally agree with it. I think it's very smart, is that if you don't have a committed team to the project or to the company, they don't really believe in this, or it's not that they don't believe it, they just haven't committed to it. They're doing something else, or they're just, it's part-time. There's all types of ways to not be committed. If someone's not committed, it's just not going to happen. I haven't seen one where someone says, you know, I'm kind of doing this for fun, but I've still got a day job over here, and my hobby's over here. You want someone with passion that's almost consumed to the point where that this is going to be successful because there's just no other choice. Okay? That's kind of the difference between what we call corporate entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship. When you talk about inside the organization, you can do a lot of things that are entrepreneurial. But if a project that you're working on doesn't pan out inside the organization, you know, and it's just because whatever reason, there's some reasons that it could be your fault. But let's say it's not your fault. It's just like, look, this is just not the right thing. We need to do something else. Usually you keep your job and you keep the paycheck. But if you're doing the company and that's all you have and it doesn't work, there's a big difference. Commitment of that level is one of the key factors to try to help get that going. Difficult sometimes to attract people. Because one of the things you can't do in a lot of cases is pay people, or pay them well. And I can tell you, I've been in companies where we didn't get paid for years. And I can tell you that's stressful. that can be tough. But commitment, you know, you have a team that's committed to work with it. So it's just like any kind of project. It's not going to happen on its own. Somebody's got to be the champion. You're looking for somebody to be the champion. And that's the most important thing. But when they're successful, oh, they're great. They bring about a great deal of wealth for people. They create jobs. That's the economic engine we like to see. I'd love to see, instead of giving money to build a lot of high-speed rails and things, that the stimulus goes to entrepreneurs and say, look, here's $1 million. What can you do with that? A lot.